The C414. This mic is a legend and a classic if there ever was one. A true workhorse in the realm of studios. You'd be hard pressed to go to a whole lot of medium to larger size studios that don't have at least one 414, of which there are so many different versions. I mean, this thing's been around for a long time. It has been invented and reinvented. For the longest time, the C414 just was the sound of acoustic guitars to me. I know if I put this on an acoustic guitar around the 15th fret, it's gonna sound great. Very versatile, killer workhorse. What more can you say? What if there was a company where the workers that used to build this thing, taking what works here, because a lot works, taking some new ideas and new technologies and reimagining this classic into a modern day juggernaut of a microphone that can do way more than what you can see on the surface? The Austrian Audio OC818. Let's talk. Hey, real quick, this is not a sponsored video. However, Austrian Audio did send me the mic to try, so if you want to consider it a sponsored video, I would not blame you. However, there's no promise for a video with this thing. I'm gonna give you my honest thoughts as they happen in real time, whether you want them or not. Back to the video. I get a lot of mics to play with, and I love it. I freaking love it. I love learning the nuances of like capsule design, the history that accompanies these things as they're designed, the design legacy of all these different types of things. And this one is particularly interesting in that right. Austrian Audio, made up of the old workers of the AKG factory, vastly knowledgeable individuals, taking something that is frankly a killer starting point, right? I mean, we'd be hard pressed to argue over if this is useful in the studio or not. I'll take all that knowledge, all of that development, and reimagine it for the modern day. You would imagine that that would come with a very good sounding microphone that's fairly reminiscent of something that you could imagine, right? But what else could they possibly bring to the table? I was definitely skeptical and curious when I got it. So many things about this mic seem very gimmicky, but holding it in my hand, the build quality is on par with some of the finest mics that I've ever personally held. I mean, you can see the quality is in the details here, and I wish I could hand it to you just so you could feel this in your hand. There's a whole lot more weight here. Not that that is the only bearer of if a mic is good or not. But one thing you'll notice right off the bat probably is this extra switch position here, right in the middle, where you can get into dual capsule mode. There are two capsules on here. You can take a secondary output of this. What does that get you? Well, you have two capsules. You could do this as a stereo mic for one mic. You could remotely change the polar pattern of the mic in real time or in post. The crazy one, the one that I wasn't expecting, was changing the polar pattern frequency dependent across the mic in 5 bands. I could put 12K on up in figure 8. I could put 100 down below in Omni if I want to, and so much in between, which made this a crazy useful little device, and also made for some really interesting miking positions. Awkward way to mic an acoustic guitar, right? Yeah, because you can get mid-side from this if you want it, but I would be pointing it like this. It's hard to wrap your mind around when you're first getting to work on this, the amount of things that you could do here. We mic'd a bass cab, and I'm essentially getting 3 different sources from one mic, and we'll explain it. Well, let's back up. First of all, I brought in an artist, Vincent Charles. This is an unreleased song called Casual. If you want this, this will be available on the Patreon. As always, you can go through the raws, and there's a lot of them, and you can hear what this mic does. You can even download the plugins to use with this from austrianaudio.com to play with this, and you can manipulate your own way around this thing if you want to. So first things first, Vince brought in a demo and we were gonna start on drums. And I knew I wanted to try this in a handful of different positions. Main places that I tried this first, I mean, I have a single mic that I can run mid-side on. I'm gonna try it. So we placed it in the room and you turn it, which was super weird. So a while back, I put a story on YouTube where I put a 414 on kick and it blew some people's minds. Blew my mind. It's not a mic you put on the kick, but if this is a modern version of a 414, we're gonna see how it does down here, and we're also gonna see how many SPLs this thing can take before we destroy it. So let's go. Vincent's the kind of guy who will make you feel bad about playing any instrument because he'll sit down and just show you up on it. This is wicked. Just using the Austrian Audio as a single room mic right now and being able to switch it from mid-side to stereo, this is wild. It's like a very minimal setup, not a whole lot of floor space, one microphone. Basically a modern take on a 414. This is crazy. I'm enjoying this. Next thing after mid-side, which was wild using one mic, if space is a consideration in your studio, this thing is a pretty good choice. Versatility and floor space, come on. The next place I wanted to try this was on a kick drum, because one thing I'd never noticed, there was one day I had a mic laying around, so I put the 414 on the kick and it sounded bonkers. Like, it was really good. So I wanted to see if I could also do that with this. That's testing a lot of the internal circuitry of the microphone. I did not use the pad on this. I wanted to see how much air this thing could take before it broke up, either the capsule or the internals of the mic itself. What I found was it was very reminiscent of a 414. It has a ton of headroom on here. You could put a 20 dB pad if you want, but I would imagine you have to be recording a rocket taking off into outer space if you need to use this pad. There is a ton of headroom here. It can take a whole lot of SPLs. Just play around the kit real quick. Wow, okay. So, I can already tell this is gonna work, but I need to go switch the modes. So Vincent, give me a sec. So there's a setting on this mic where you can have the two elements active. I'm just gonna go put it in cardioid since we're gonna use it on a kit. So I definitely did get confused in a few places working with this microphone because I've never had anything like this that can do these types of things. Actually, no, I don't need to do this. It took me a while to realize, like, yes, I can just put this in cardioid if I want to. I'm gonna figure this out. I've never had a mic that does this before. But what's probably most useful is to always take that second out, and I can change it to whatever polar pattern I want at any point. So I can still capture both capsules and just use the plugin, set it to pseudo stereo, and just pop it to cardioid. It'll come out mono in the end, unless I want a stereo output, which I can also get. An interesting use case for that would be if you want to use the front capsule to capture the kick out position in a more direct way, and then use the rear capsule to pick up more of the reflections in the room. You could totally do that. I did that with a bass cab, but that's later. Go ahead and hit the kick. Does it actually come out mono? It does. Just need to bring the gain down. Go ahead and hit it hard. The 91. That's the OC818. So for kick out comparisons, here's a Clarion. Then the OC. That's pretty beastly. And I'm not padding the mic itself. You could have like a 40 dB pad on the mic itself, I believe. I misspoke. Not 40. You can have a 20 dB pad. Still, tons of headroom. I have it set to 0, so the circuitry in this thing can be pushed like crazy before it starts to break up on the mic. It's on the preamps here that I'm pulling it down like minus 20 because it's right in front of that kick drum. That's a whole lot of SPLs and it's not breaking up. Now the interesting thing here, after trying kick drum, we move this to like a crotch mic position. But I'm gonna put it in this area here, see if I can maneuver it in a place that makes sense, and then put it in Omni and just compress the snot out of it. This was eye-opening in the usefulness of the software on the back end that you can use in conjunction with this mic if you take both outputs. There's a plugin that this comes with. You could change the polar pattern in different positions in the EQ spectrum of whatever source you're recording. So in this crotch mic position, although I didn't do it in real time in the moment, I'll give a little snippet of moving stuff around. change how a source sounds in different frequency spectrums based on the polar patterns that you're giving to that spectrum. It should give like an old like 90s grunge thing here, so we're gonna see what it'll do. I know, that's right. That's in your field.
That's right in my field, yeah. I should have worn my Soundgarden shirt. Dang it.
Keep going for me. That's killer. So it's right beside the ride cymbal, rack tom, snare drum, and Omni, and then I'm just compressing the snot out of it. So here it is soloed. It's hard to beat almost any mic in this position for me, but especially for this like big, sludgy, grungy 90s drum tone thing, it just works. It's cool to be able to record both of these and be able to change the polar pattern of the mic whenever I want. Because if I want to switch it to stereo, I can. If I want to put it in mid-side, I can. It's just easy. So, overall miking scheme on the drums, just from bare bones. Inside kick. Beta 91 on the inside. 208 on the inside. Clarion kick out. We're using the Loughton snare mic on the snare. We got 308s on the toms. Soyuz 013 tubes as overheads. SM81 on hat. And you can probably see the 91 inside the kick, but bottom snare is actually Mojave MAD. Pretty dope. So there's your general drum set. So we ended up with a killer drum tone with this at the crotch position, but if you want to get on the Patreon, you can play with every position that we tried, as well as download the plugin for yourself and see what you like setting-wise on this thing in 3 different positions of the mic. Stay tuned to the end of the video to hear everything all together. It's time to do bass. So we're going to move this bad boy over to the bass cab. Let's take a look at what we got going on. We got Vince on the Marco with flats, labellas. We're going into the Ampeg cab, which, pro tip, if you can do this on your cabs, just get that grill out of there. So the initial thought is to go cardioid with this. I might put it in figure 8 and put like a gobo behind, just to kind of minimize like side reflections, but for right now, we're just gonna put it on the cap like I normally would on a bass cab and just see how it sounds. And a PRS Archon driving this, so it's gonna get nasty. This is kind of crazy. So I only have one mic on the bass. I put 3 tracks here in Pro Tools. One is a stereo track where I have the plugin that I'm running that's basically an omnidirectional, so it's picking up from all sides. But there's a gobo on the back of the cab that's killing any reflections. And then I've split it so I have just the front capsule and then just the back capsule. So there's 3 different sounds with this one microphone. Go ahead and play a little bit. That's both. Just the front. Just the rear. Like, and then all mixed together. That's genuinely cool.
That third one caught me off guard. That thing's gnarly.
It's like a room mic. Yeah, the usefulness of this thing when it came to bass cab is when I really saw a few of the potential uses here. You can take each one of these just by duplicating tracks and deciding on the input, right? So I had a front capsule, a rear capsule, and then I took a stereo where I could use the plugin and create whatever I want, and all of those things work together. And what was really interesting was I'm getting 3 unique sounds from one microphone. It was wild. Okay, so for bass guitar, what I did was I pulled this gobo over in front of the cab because some of the reflections were getting weird, and I actually moved it quite a bit closer because I found that to be a whole lot more usable. but we were actually running the Archon because you can put this bad boy in 4 ohms, and that was driving this, which is a nasty tone, which for this song just works. As you can see, like the depth, the low end of this thing, I just have absolutely cranked. I'm pushing some mids into it. It is not bright. We are on the lead channel and it is nice and dirty. But what I'm actually doing is I've split this up into 3 different tracks, and it is wildly versatile. Crazy. Let's do guitars. So for guitars, again, we use this bad boy. I threw it into cardioid. We put it right next to a 57 on each speaker on my fried egg audio cab here. And it just sounded great right out the gate. We put this on the grill right next to the 57, and it was useful right out of the gate. Not a whole lot to talk about there. Guitar tones were easy with this thing. For vocals, I tried it in figure 8. I tried it in cardioid. I mean, the beauty here is that you can pick whatever you want, right? I think what we settled on for this one was just taking the one single capsule in cardioid and just running it like that. Sounded good on vocals.
Since I met you, I feel sick. I don't get why you got me feeling like this. Oh, maybe it's the way you look that's got me thinking about how I don't wanna keep it casual. Yeah. Held my heart, broke a million times, and that's no lie. But if I had $1 every time it happened, maybe I wouldn't be singing these rhymes. Oh, maybe it's the way you look, it's got me thinking about how I don't wanna keep it casual. Yeah. Baby, I see you standing in the red dress, and maybe you can't keep me out of distress. Or maybe it's the way you look, it's got me thinking about how I don't wanna keep it casual. Yeah. Since I met you, I feel sick, but now I get why you got me feeling like this.
So this thing was on vocal. How did that feel?
Felt wild, honestly. It just felt like super natural.
I dig this thing. It's nice and balanced. This is dope. I dig it.
I dig it. I thought it sounded great.
So we kind of knew what this sounded like in a louder, bombastic setting, but I wanted to see if it could do a more intimate thing. What it sounded like when there's not a whole lot of signal being pushed into it. Is this capsule going to be delicate enough and intimate enough to kind of capture those moments? We weren't disappointed. All right, man. I'm just going to let it roll here. I'm going to try this. Right now it's mid-side, but we are going to probably try it in one more position because I want to see what this does. So I'll just let it roll. There's no click. Just feel it out. So, vocals on the acoustic track. I popped this in figure 8, and we're having him sit on the couch for a different vibe. Keeping him more relaxed, keeping everything tight, keeping everything dry. And there he is.
I just choked and got water in my eye at the same time.
Mazel tov.
Hey!
So, right now we've got the OC818 on acoustic in there, and we're doing it in mid-side. Acoustics to me have always been like a 414. That's what acoustics sound like. I know I can put a 414 on an acoustic and I know exactly how it's going to sit in the mix. This is very reminiscent of a 414. It's definitely different. The capsule definitely acts like an older 414, which is dope. But being able to take from both capsules in this thing and do a mid-side, really cool. I want to pop it in cardioid and try that. I want to put it in figure 8 and see if it sounds like what I remember. The older 414 vibe, I think that's because of the ceramic capsule. It seems very well rounded. It is not harsh. It doesn't have that like top end crazy zing that you can find with some models of the 414 because there are thousands and they are vastly different from each other. This XLS is the one that I have. It is not my favorite one, but you start getting into the older versions of this and it tends to get very expensive very quickly. Now, it has been a very long time since I have used an older 414, so take this part with a grain of salt, but it felt like it was taking me back there rather than like the modern version of the 414. It was almost like imagining a vintage 414 in a modern day setting. So I just had to go back to the mic and check. It's a pretty low output. We've been using it on mostly loud sources. And a 414, from what I'm used to, they're typically pretty decent output. This seems pretty hungry for gain. It is a very quiet self-noise mic, so I can feed it gain and it's not going to get noisy, which is good, but it is much lower output than what I'm typically used to. Alright, so we just did acoustic on here in the other room, but
Yes.
here we are, and there's 3 different options. So the first one was using the dual capsule. Check this out in like a mid-side thing. And then I went back to single capsule. This is figure 8. And then cardioid. That's a stupid amount of versatility from one mic.
I think the moon is broken in two, 'cause I can't tell what time is anymore. If we could find that time, maybe we'd live a different life with me, but we won't know for sure. If I could be somebody else, I would still be me without you. If you could be somebody else, I hope that you're happy with who you choose.
Hey Vincent,
Hey, Jeremy.
we definitely didn't already have this conversation.
Not at all.
What? Do you have go-to mics that you enjoy?
My go-to mics are specifically the SM58 because it's the most versatile one, and then I would say SM7B. I use that if I can for like in-home recording and stuff for vocals. But those are just like my go-to because that's what I'm comfortable with.
So like, without bullshitting, like, how did that one feel? Hearing it back in your headphones, like how it informed performance, stuff like that.
I was actually kind of taken aback by it, and I'm not bull. I think that was, I didn't know what to expect when I came in, which is probably a great thing. Sitting down, listening to it back in the headphones, how clear the clarity is, and that's what really drove me, was the clarity on every single switch that you were able to do. It was a different form of clarity, but everything that came through was like already what you wanted it to be, which is really nice to have. honestly, vocally, I was just blown away by it.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, seriously.
I'm a fan.
I'm also a fan.
All in all, Austrian Audio did a killer job with this thing, and it is actually priced just below the cost of a 414. So C414, $13.19 on Sweetwater. The Austrian Audio OC818, $12.49 on Sweetwater. Pretty close in price. I think the thing that sets these apart is that this has so much more functionality under the hood. If you want it, it's there. If you don't want it, it's still a killer sounding mic. So this is definitely cheaper than the C414, not by much, but there's a whole lot of extra functionality. But if you'll notice, for most of the video, we ended up settling on a cardioid pattern. In a couple instances, we really went ham with this, and it would be interesting to try 2 of these in a stereo setting with all that functionality. But if you feel like you don't need the stereo functionality that this mic has to offer, or you feel like you don't need the multi-pattern selection, and you just want a straight up cardioid mic, there is a $799 version of this mic. I mean, you can get the files and play with this on the Patreon. If you dig this in cardioid, maybe that's a better option for you. $799. That's a whole lot less expensive than this if you're into just a cardioid pattern. If you do want that extra functionality, those extra positions, the software on the back end, this is a really, really interesting look. I found a whole lot of uses for it. If you guys are into this, hit the like button, hit subscribe, go check out Vincent Charles. The song is called Casual. It is not out yet, but go give him some love. Spam "We love you, Vincent" in the comments down below. I am Resident Loser Jeremy, and I will see you in the next one.